Welcome to Mythic Albion, a journey through Britain's legends, folklore, and sacred landscapes. I'm your host, Tom, and today we chase the legends that stalk moors, graveyards, and lonely roads. Some would say black dogs, others would say spectral beasts and fey hounds from the other world. Whatever they were, these uncanny black dogs haunted Britain and instilled dread and primal fear in all that encountered them. For hundreds of years, Britain has been home to lonely country roads lined with twisted trees and low, dark clouds. Many a traveller could only traverse the landscape on foot, night and day, subject to whatever the harsh elements might provide. But for most travellers, some inconvenient rain and wind would be a hopeful wish. Walking alone, boots crunching on gravel, softer than the traveller might remember. And though subtle, first there is no bird song, no sound of rain or wind, just tension in the air, as if the earth itself is holding its breath. And then up ahead, a shape forms. Something too large to be a dog or even a wolf, and blacker than midnight. It would look almost indistinguishable from the black cloak of night, if not for otherworldly eyes that glowed in a multitude of colour, watching and fixated. For those on those paths, they would feel the air grow heavy, and no words, not even a gasp, can escape from the unfortunate traveller. They know what it is, and they know it has been waiting. From the storm-battered coast of Suffolk to the moorlands of Yorkshire and further into the green hills of the Highlands, these devil dogs have many names. Black Shuck, the Bhargast, the Cu Sith, and all of them are watching. The Black Shuck of East Anglia. Black Shuck is the name given to an otherworldly black dog that has been roaming the coastline and countryside of East Anglia since at least the 16th century. Shuck has been described as large as a horse with long shaggy black fur, teeth like tusks and a single blood red eye occupying its face like a hellish cyclops. Prowling along dark lanes and lonesome paths, his howl is said to turn the hearer's blood to ice, and despite his imposing size, his footfalls make no sound. He is known to stalk churchyards under the cover of darkness at the chime of midnight. One of the earliest sightings was recounted in the poem A Strange and Terrible Wonder by Abraham Fleming, a clergyman of that time. On the fateful night of the 4th of August, 1577, in St Mary's Church of Bungay, West Suffolk, a large congregation took refuge within the holy walls while a fearsome storm raged outside. The people, taking comfort of the protection of so hallowed ground, while the tempest howled around them, huddled together in murmuring prayer. And with a sudden clap of thunder, Black Shuck burst through the doors of the holy church. Leaping up onto a beam, he surveyed the scene with murderous intent and a drooling awe. One moment he was on the beams, and the next he was sweeping through the congregation, jaws snapping indiscriminately. He happened upon two kneeling parishioners and set about them, wringing their necks like rag dolls until they were dead. Black Shuck then turned his attention to a fleeing man and mauled him in the back with demonic ferocity. The man felt as if he'd been struck by bolts of white-hot lightning, and the church clock exploded. The beast fled into the maelstrom outside, but it would not be finished that night. Just 12 miles away, over in Blyburgh and the Church of the Holy Trinity, the beast turned up once more, black and terrible, his single eye glowing like a fire in a cave. This time he took out the throats of 2 men and a boy, and burning the hand of another. Such was the carnage and mayhem wrought that the church steeple collapsed. As Black Shuck smashed through the northern door and out into the storm, no amount of rainwater could dampen the fiery scorch marks left on the heavy oak that was later described as the Devil's Fingerprints, which can still be seen on the church until this day. The event is remembered in Fleming's verse. All down the church in the midst of fire the hellish monster flew, and passing onward to the choir, he many people slew. Black Shuck was never caught, never killed, never even chased, because how do you hunt a creature made of storm and shadow? The Bhargast. In the north, across the Yorkshire Dales and around Whitby Abbey, in the winding lanes of old towns like York, they whisper of a creature that comes when the night is thick and the moon is thin. A death bringer, a shapeshifter, a spirit that walks in many skins, headless patron, a white cat, the yellow goblin, and more prominently, the black dog. During the day, nothing in these northern towns seem amiss. Stone cottages stand idly with smoking chimneys, while livestock huddle in nearby fields. Church bells echo on the hour through the cobbled streets to a background of birdsong. But when dusk descends, the lanes change. Mist gathers low at the ankle, like a dream that one cannot quite remember, and then a terrible sound, one that eclipses all others. Heavy, scratching, dragging over cobbled stone, a growl that seems to come from everywhere as the mist now seems everywhere. The Deathbringer of many forms, the Bhargast often favours the form of a great black dog, larger than any earthly hound, too unnatural to be called a wolf, with eyes that glow like coals and long fangs that would look out of place on a Smilodon. But it is no simple beast. Some say he takes the form of a headless man dragging his own chains. Others have claimed he appears as a cloaked rider or a swirling black mist, but always, always brings death. The Bhargast never attacked anyone, for what he represents is far, far worse. To see it is to know someone, maybe you, or maybe a loved one, will not see the dawn. A tale told from the city of Ripon said that one afternoon, as day turned to dusk, a local man who had been tending his mother's grave at the local cemetery decided to take a shortcut down a lane running parallel to the walls surrounding the graveyard, a lane that others always avoided. No sooner had he entered the narrow lane that mist swirled at his feet, then his knees, then it enveloped him. His lantern flickered, and as the flame withered, the mist thickened. Then came a sound, something heavy like iron being dragged. He wheeled around, then a low snarl. He spun again. Now he didn't know if he were facing the entrance to the lane or the exit. The claustrophobic mist felt like a gentle vice. He turned again and saw it, not in front of him, but in the reflection of his lantern. A black dog, a huge dog. Its shoulders stood parallel to his own, eyes like dying red stars. It crept towards him, somehow down a lane that should not be able to accommodate such a creature. The next sound was that of a breaking lantern. The second sound was of feet scampering on old stone. He ran. He somehow found his way out of the lane. He made it home, the door slamming, bolting it, praying, heart thumping in his chest, for he felt the creature's breath on his neck every step of the way. By morning, he was found dead in his bed, mouth agape in a silent scream. There were no wounds, no blood. While there was no apparent forced entry, there were terrible grooves found on the door to his home, grooves made by no mortal creature of this world. The Cu Sith. In the far north, where the heather grows thick and purple, and overlapping wind never stops its groaning, the highlands hold a legend older than memory. For it is not a ghost, nor a devil, something fey, something ethereal, otherworldly. It is called the Cu Sith, the fairy hound. It walks in silence over the moors, half in our world and half somewhere else. Trotting and gliding through the misty glens, it is a great beast, large as an ox with shaggy matted fur as green as moss. Its paws are silent. Everything about this creature is, save for the howls. Howls you can only hear twice. If you hear a third howl, then it is already too late. The Cu Sith is a collector of souls, not to rip and tear, but to take, to snatch the life right out of someone, carrying spirits of the dead into the hollow hills and beneath into the world beneath this one. In Gaelic, it is said to serve the Benir, the washerwoman, or the Slough, fey host of the dead. Like all fey creatures, it does not follow the rules of man or adhere to the laws of order. It does not need roads. It does not leave footprints. It does not need permission to enter our world to seek out fresh souls. One encounter is said to have taken place as far as the Hebrides. A grandmother from a local fishing village on a tidal island off the coast of the mainland had taken herself to the beach via the causeway to collect shells. A place of breathtaking vistas, with the sea a shade of aquamarine to turquoise, sand the kind of silvery whites you would sooner find in tropical climes. Instead of palm trees, the landscape is made up of wind-blown dunes and distant mountains. A wild, undeveloped location, a haven for natural wildlife. However, nothing natural would this treasure hunter of shells find this day. Losing track of time and with a setting sun, her concentration was interrupted by a howl. Distant. The grandmother paid it no mind, and then a small girl was running down the causeway. Her granddaughter. "Grandmother, grandmother!" cried out the smiling child. But before anything more could be said, a second howl was let loose, closer, as if it came no further than the nearest dune, 20 feet yonder. "Come, child, that's the second time I've heard that blasted hound. 'Tis but whatever was said next was not heard by the child, for the child had turned a deathly white and whispered, "If you hear a howl on the lands once, twice, don't wait for a third." The young girl scanned the beach. For a moment she thought she saw something behind a dune, not more than 15 feet away, something like the tips of green, shaggy ears. She grabbed her grandmother's hand so suddenly that her basket of shells were dashed, and before the elder could protest, the pair of them were spiriting away. The tide was already rising. The causeway would be dangerous, but it was safer than what was behind that dune. The child dare not look behind, for though nothing could be heard but the dull waves, she was sure they were being pursued. The tide suddenly felt like it had risen, quicker than the girl had anticipated. They ran, and they ran, and they ran, even as they reached the safety of the island. And as the child had bundled her grandmother into the safety of the cottage, as she was turning and closing at the same time, for a moment she thought she saw something. Something bounding. Something green. Water spraying up. Slits of illuminated blue were in that spray above rows of canine fangs. But no sound, save for the sea. The door slammed. Seconds passed that seemed impossibly long. The child braced for an impact. Nothing. The fey fiend was surely outside the door. Would it howl one last time? Surely it would. Surely. Surely. Who knows how long grandmother and grandchild stood in the middle of that cottage, staring at the door. But nothing came. Mayhap the arrival of the child interrupted the rhythm of the creature. Perhaps it took to find some other hapless wanderer on those cold shores. Perhaps the Cu just faded away, like breath on a window. Why do so many cultures fear black dogs? Do they represent death, guilt, loneliness, or liminality? Most versions of the legend of the Black Shuck would have you believe that he is ungodly, demonic, a hellish creature, a servant of Satan, if not the devil himself. Others say he walks beside lost travellers, a silent protector. All would agree, if you see him, don't speak, don't run, just pray he isn't looking for you. And then there is the Bhargast, the herald of death. But not every story ends in death. Some say the Bhargast protects hidden treasure, an old pagan echo buried deep beneath churchyards. Others say he guards crossroads where the living and the dead are closest. It was once said you could speak to it if you knew the right name. But no one knows that name, not anymore. Only that if you walk alone on a Yorkshire night, the shadows long and tendrils of mist longer, do not stray from the path, for it won't be the wind dragging chains behind you. And those that may lie at the crossroads between life and death would be intimate with the Cu the Cu that some say still walks the highlands to this day, sometimes at the solstice, sometimes at Samhain, sometimes when the veil of realities is most thin. 3 hounds, or perhaps the same beast. Whatever the truth may be, each has a name whispered in fear. Black Shuck, the Bhargast, the Cu. But are they monsters? Not really. Maybe they are something worse. Watchers, delivering warnings, symbols of something older than any written myth. Across different cultures we find them. Cerberus, Anubis, Fenrir, guarding thresholds, all of them standing at the border between the living and the dead. So, what do they mean? Perhaps these hounds are echoes of the old gods, reshaped by fear. Are they metaphors for death, solitude, the untamable wild, or the guilt we quietly carry? Mankind has always tried to tame stories and nature. Forests become farmlands, shrines become stone circles, and myths become metaphors. As we domesticated wolves into dogs, we found a way to turn our fears into something easier for our souls. But still, on a cold night, on lonely paths, we sometimes hear something in the dark, a growl, a pad of feet, maybe the scraping of metal, and a howl we hope we imagined. Thank you for walking the mists with me on this journey through Britain's Black Dog legends. If you enjoyed this tale, please follow Mythic Albion, share it with a fellow traveller, and leave a review. It helps others find their way along the old paths. Next time, we trade fog for forest. We travel to Sherwood, to the heart of the Greenwood, to a time of adventure where arrows flew through the sunlight and laughter echoes through the leaves. But the man behind the myth, Robin Hood, a hero, a thief, a ghost of rebellion, or a forgotten noble? Join me as we follow the green trail into shadow and what lies within the hooded man. Until then, walk wisely and beware the sound of a growl behind you.